Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwin, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about the daily life of Imperial citizens as we get into Mars and the life of a Martian. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K content every single day. We love the lore and we talk about the lore a lot, so subscribe. And of course, if you have any suggestions, just comment down below. But with that said, let's get into the daily life of the Imperial citizen on Mars. The Red Planet is the homeworld and headquarters of the Adeptus Mechanicus, a planet sacred to the faith of the cult Mechanicus. It is the epicenter of Imperial knowledge, and without it, the Imperium would not be what it is today. Mars was the first, and is the greatest forge world of the Imperium of Man. Its geography is duplicated on other forge worlds across the galaxy. Entire worlds are terraformed to be made in the Red Planet's image. Life on this sacred world is filled with a non-stop cacophony of trillions of Martian citizens working day in and day out to appease the Omnissiah. If you were to stand still on the Red Planet, the first thing you would hear would be the loud and obnoxious clamoring of giant forge engines that power so many of the vital forge veins of the planet. Rolling and crushing, these sounds would be as powerful as the sounds made by the massive titans as they stalk the battlefield. Each crush of a forge press would not only be heard but felt as the vibrations travel through the city. Next you would hear the revving and accelerating of the countless transportation vessels as they travel through various flight paths and city streets. Within each vehicle are the stockpiles of materials vital to the creation of some Imperial war machine, and as such, they give each transport a unique forceful sound, like a semi attempting to carry a load far beyond its capacity. Finally, you would hear the chanting of prayers coming from the various altars dedicated to the massive god machines that power the city. These wailing devotional prayers are performed multiple times a day, and some altars are never without devotees, crying and speaking their sacred litanies of praise to the machine spirits. Dozens of worshippers would be seen, bowed down or on their knees, rocking back and forth, sometimes holding on to sacred pieces of machinery. In their hearts is the belief that their devotion and methodical movements appease the Omnissiah, and thus allow his machines to continue to function. The most astounding thing would be the variety of worshippers that would be wailing on the walls of these altars. Powerful tech priests, covered in expensive and long-lived augmentations. They would be next to the child initiates, whom are barely starting their path to priesthood. All are equally required to show their devotion to the god, no matter how far from humanity they are. On altars dedicated to the machine spirits of housing complexes are countless families thanking the Omnissiah for another day. Each vital appliance has its own chapel or altar made to provide the inhabitants the ability to thank the spirits of each machine, such as the God Furnace, which provides countless families with another warm night. The majority of the populations on Mars are workers or servants toiling away at a specific task day after day. The lowest tier of workers do not perform any vital task themselves. They are simply there to help facilitate their machine masters. While the machine does most of the heavy work, the workers perform tasks like taking measurements to ensure the machine continues to cut parts the proper way, or inspecting weapon parts and calibrating the machine to ensure quality. Below this class of workers are the Servitors that fill the manufactorums, performing mundane tasks like pulling out parts and cleaning the machine when not in use. These creatures are the lobotomized remnants of thieves, heretics, and individuals who do not show the proper devotion to the machine god. Amongst their ranks, there exists a class of Servitors with a sad history. In the Red Planet's past, there was a time when the workforce demanded too much from the adepts of Mars. In response, the Fabricator General approved the hiring of millions of workers from outside the Sol system. The newcomers were promised that their travel and accommodations on Mars would be paid for by the adepts, and once working on the planet, the debt would be paid through the wages they earned on Mars. A ship carrying these new workers arrived on the Red Planet, But within days, the debt of the voyage and the debt from the living quarters made it clear that these new workers were actually slaves. The only possible way they could free themselves was to pay off the debt, which required some form of promotion. But because there was a limited number of positions available to these workers, the majority could not pay their debts. In response, the Fabricator General approved a law that allowed any creditor that had a debtor who owed more money than what could be paid off in his lifetime to be taken as a servitor. Thousands of foreign workers were lobotomized, and Mars gained a massive servitor workforce. The few foreign workers that managed to pay off their debt helplessly watched as their colleagues were taken. The people that sympathized with the workers and played a part in the servitor creation process managed to tattoo a red teardrop on each of the worker servitors as a means of remembering the cruel lies and betrayal these people faced. The story has become a legend on Mars, and you can still find many servitors with this teardrop tattoo. Above the lower tiers of workers are the aspiring fabricators that work in a variety of orders, each one designed to better understand the Omnissiah's power within their specific manufactorums. While Mars is covered with hundreds of forges, manufactorums, and forge fanes, all run by numerous families, and most having a different task, each one of these organizations has to maintain an educated workforce that can respond to the machines that they depend on. This is why you can find orders with similar tasks employed by all of the houses of Mars. The most abundant and well-represented of these orders is the Artisans. While their title changes depending on the forge or manufactorum, they all have a similar task of controlling the vast labor force of servitors and menials that inhabit their domain. Forge lords, cybersmiths, necromechanics, overseers, and underseers. These are all a fraction of the many titles that are given to artisans. They are all feared and followed by the workers of the planet. Depending on the size of the forge, these ranks are filled with multiple members, all with their own hierarchy and role, but their purpose will always be to pump out enough materials to create and restore truly wondrous weapons of war. All houses will have a strong group of logi poring over ancient texts that provide information for the various machines. These text scrolls and data slates are filled with specific accounts of machine spirits misbehaving or rebelling against the Mechanicum. They provide possible solutions to the machine's misconduct, things like prayer rituals and prophetic procedures. With this knowledge, the logi will be able to predict when a machine spirit will become upset. Or better yet, they can prevent such episodes by determining the proper amount of devotion a machine spirit needs to remain happy. Throughout the entire planet is the unmistakable presence of the Martian Skitarii Legion. Vast and secured portions of the Red Planet are reserved for the macroclades of the Legionist Skitarii. But even then, they do not hesitate to march out into the planet for everyone to see. Rank upon rank of Skitarii marching around chains of onager doomcrawlers in imitation of Mars's nomadic caravans. Shining, galvanic rifles are displayed as Skitarii, wrapped in flaming crimson robes, march for the public to see as warhordes drill and showboat across the planet. Outside of the massive forge cities, the people of Mars continue their thirst for knowledge by probing the wastes and abandoned machines, some as old as the Age of Strife. Conclaves of inquisitive souls are often formed, and expeditions are arranged, much like we would arrange a camping trip. Exploration always comes at a price, and for any Martian who takes the risk, danger lurks in the shadows. In the wastes between sites, parties can be attacked by raiding thieves, or even worse, rogue servitors. If they were to survive the encounters and bring back any valuable knowledge, they must immediately report it to the authorities. Failure to do so would be taken as an act of treason by the cult Mechanicus. Beyond the giant cityscapes of the forges is where the true glory of the Titan legions of Mars can be spotted. Enormous effigies of the human form stand in vigil over the red planet's rust-covered world. And in the skies is the massive complex of orbital shipyards, refineries, and construction facilities that encircle the equator of the planet. Known as the Ring of Iron, This is where the expeditionary fleets of the Emperor of Mankind's Great Crusade were constructed. Still functional and churning out starships for the Imperial Navy and merchant fleets, this massive orbiting station is home to millions of Martians. Life on this station is similar to the life on the planet. All effort goes towards fueling the Emperor's war machines. Because the Ring of Iron is a huge structure with a life of its own, and because it's been around as long as the Imperium of Man has stood, there are numerous ancient secrets hidden or lost in the bays and docks of the stations. While it is extremely guarded and secured, there are still those individuals that do not hesitate to open every corridor and explore every tunnel when given the opportunity to do so. Even though the Red Planet is home to some of the most intelligent and inquisitive minds, and they are all adherents to the cult Mechanicus, the constant sense of being monitored is not a false concept. Tech priests spy on tech priests in order to gain an upper hand in whatever endeavor they may come across. A paranoia of missing out on knowledge plagues the upper echelons of society on Mars, and as such, hooded figures blend in with the Omnissiah's devotees as they stalk and observe rival tech priests. The population knows that they are constantly being watched, and the discovery or realization of the inner workings of a machine must be divulged to the correct party. Otherwise, the faceless men that stalk the streets will develop an affinity for the blood of the priest who has some newfound knowledge. While this sinister threat exists all throughout the planet, the citizens of Mars see it as a small price to pay for the benefits that come with living on the most technologically advanced world of the Imperium. Every citizen of Mars is blessed with a gift from the Omnissiah. The population enjoys a higher standard of living because of the higher quality bionics and augmentations. Some would argue more so than Terra itself. As such, the lifespan of a Martian is much greater than that of a regular Imperial citizen. Bionic organs increase the quality of life of most Martians because any organ is replaceable on Mars, even parts of the human brain. And while most bionic organs replace the organic tissue of an Imperial citizen, the bionic organ of a Martian oftentimes goes as far as enhancing functionality and performance. For instance, bionic eyes can increase a subject's visual spectrum, allowing the ability to see heat or other forms of energy. The addition of digiweapons to bionic eyes is also a commonplace on Mars. Even psychers on Mars benefit from the Red Planet's technology. Psi boosters increase activity in the part of the brain responsible for controlling psychic abilities and accessing the psychic energies of the warp. A person with one of these implants is usually a proficient psyker and has greater control of his power compared to someone of the same ability without psi boosters. But the most common sight on the Red Planet will be that of individuals possessing the notable Mechondrite bionics. Mechondrites are mechanical tendrils used by the Adeptus Mechanicus to aid them in construction, maintenance, and research. Workers, servants, tech priests, and even servitors possess these marvels of technology. Small motors and actuators within their armored shells of these tendrils wave about the wearer almost with a life of their own. The sight of streets, walkways, and paths on Mars will be filled with numerous citizens, all of which have varying degrees of augmentations, each one an adherent to the cult Mechanicus and a Martian citizen. And those were 40 facts on the daily life of a Martian. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I took a lot of inspiration from just like visiting Chicago. Whenever you go, because we live around Chicago, but we don't live like downtown Chicago. So whenever we go to downtown Chicago and like we'll just walk around, especially on like Monday through Fridays. So we take the train to Chicago, and like the train gets packed with people, and everybody's on their phone. They have like earbuds on, running shoes, and it's kind of goofy to see because you have like guys in suits and they have running shoes and stuff. And the reason for that is because they usually have to walk from the train station to their job, and that usually takes a while. But the point is that it's goofy to see that all these people have so many, they wear things that help them on their daily lives, and it sets them apart from everybody else who would not live in the city. Like for instance, I don't live in the city, so I go to my job and I just wear my dress shoes and my dress clothes or whatever. But I would never wear running shoes to work because that just looks goofy. But to somebody who lives in a big city, of course, that's just like, you wear your running shoes, and then once you get to your actual job, you switch out and you put on your regular shoes. So I wanted to take that whole aspect of individuals who use things that a normal person would not use, but they have to use because they have to do it in order to accommodate for their living conditions, especially for like a commute and stuff. So I wanted to implement that into this lore, and I did that by adding that last little bit of like the different augmentations that you would see on the planet, something that you would not see on like a regular Imperial citizen or a regular Imperial world. Even if it was a hive world, you wouldn't see like the advanced like digi-weapons and the bionic eyes, things like that you wouldn't really see outside of Mars unless you're dealing with like the higher echelons of society. And then also, whenever you go to Chicago, like every single corner, something's happening. Somebody's protesting, somebody's asking for money, somebody's doing something crazy. And that's kind of the same thing with this lore. Like every single corner, you'll have people praying, you'll have people like crying about, the machine spirit not working the way that it's supposed to. So I really wanted to add that into this fluff. And then lastly, the actual like sounds that you hear whenever you get to the city. Whenever you get to the city, you don't really hear that much construction, I guess, depending on what area you are. But you definitely hear traffic. Traffic is like apparent. And then you just hear the cacophony of like so many people talking, walking. Currently there's like snow and well, it's been raining, so we have a lot of like puddles and stuff. So you hear like people stepping on puddles and stuff like that. So really, whenever you visit a city, like the sounds impact you a lot. So I wanted to put that early on in this lore and talk about the sounds of the Martian planet. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like what we do and you want to see more, jump on over to Patreon. A simple $1 a month helps us create more videos for you guys. If you can't, we understand. Simply by liking, commenting, and sharing our videos, it helps us out. And also hitting the little bell notification icon. That helps out as well. But with that said, guys, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Oh, and of course, if you have any suggestions for the daily life videos of a certain demographic in Warhammer 40k, just comment down below. But again, thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.